All right. Hold on. Oh my God, what have I done? I am streaming on YouTube for the first time as well as TikTok. So, did we do it? We did it. Amazing. Okay. Um, don't mind the microphone. I didn't disconnect it from recording the podcast earlier, but here we are. Okay. So, thank you for all of the comments on the video about co-parenting. Okay. Um, I don't play guitar. I used to play piano. Um, the video that I posted about co-parenting, it was very off the cuff. It was very like, not that I didn't care. I recorded it in the bathroom. My son was here. And oh, thank you for telling me that. I'll take my AirPods out. It was for me like I'm a sassy person. I'm a bigger personality. It's interesting when I see comments about co-parenting, and there are some people that have like an emotional tie, emotional connection to it. There are other people that have more of a reactive presence, and it's like the fuck you attitude. And I also understand that. But tonight I wanted to talk more about the comments. You know, my video is what it is, and I will always be honest about my experience in co-parenting. Um, if you have ever been in an abusive relationship, if you have been affiliated with a narcissist at some point in your life, this is going to be helpful for you. If you are someone that is trying to leave abuse and you would like to understand how to be a co-parent without getting entangled in their bullshit, this is going to help you. So the video that I posted was about a text response from my ex-husband. So a few weeks ago we had, I don't know where to put this. I feel very awkward. I can see myself on two screens. We had a legal meeting. This is how this kind of came about. We had a legal meeting, and it was about our co-parenting agreement or parenting plan. And something that came up was that Hunter is changing schools next year. Our son is 4. And in that, the time changes, right? Like the length of time in daycare, we can do like 7 to 5 right now. In the fall, he's going to be done at like 2 or 2:30, and there is a bus that goes up to an after school program. So in that meeting, I said, hey, there's an option here where we can send him to this gymnastics thing for a couple hours for an after school program. And my ex-husband got like annoyed. He was like, no, like I live in this area. This is what I want to do. And I was like, cool, no problem. I'm going to do me, and I'm going to register him for this on my time, and you do whatever you want to do on your time. Cool. So like agreements done, signed. Okay. Why am I getting restrictions? That's weird. What does that mean? Hold on, guys. I don't fuck this up. Can you tell I'm new? Nudity? How did I get flagged for nudity? I'm in a shirt. Weird. Anyways. Sorry, I probably shouldn't say these things out loud. A couple weeks go by and nothing changed, right? Nothing changed from our parenting agreement. And I got a text message, and all it said to me was, you can go ahead. You can go ahead and put him in this after school program. And I was like, yeah, I did on my time. So when I got the message, and this is the part for me that I find funny about narcissists, and this is how the conversation started on that TikTok video. I find 99.9% of his behavior laughable today. And it's laughable because he still thinks he has power or a play here or a something. And he probably spent the entire day trying to figure out how to send that message to make it make sense and make me feel small. And honestly, I could care less. I was still going to go ahead and do me. And I'm not even rude back. Like there's no part of me that is combative. I don't want it. I don't need it in my life. So we're going to talk about that today. How to be a good co-parent when the other side of the partnership is a narcissist or an abuser. It could also be similar or the same, if you're dealing with an avoidant, right? People that avoid emotions, conversations, confrontation, whatever. So what I want to make super clear before we start, I just did a series on my podcast about this. Um, if you do not know how to be unattached from other people, this is like outside of relationships, you are going to have a really, really, really hard time in a co-parenting dynamic. So this is not about being fake nice. This is not about pretending it doesn't bother you. This is not about um, your right don't match at all. I wonder what people think sometimes when they put comments in the chat. Um, this isn't about being right or wrong. The goal of being a good co-parent is for the child, for the best interest of the child. The court loves to use that best interest of the child. The truth is that rarely ever happens. And when you're dealing with someone who is narcissistic or has narcissistic tendencies, being detached from that can be really hard. If you have not actually done the healing work around what it looks like in a relationship, when you've dealt with abuse, my mouth doesn't match my voice. Okay. Let's stay on topic, guys. This is a training. You have to remain detached. Now, detachment, I think, is taught the wrong way on the internet. The detached is like this unbothered, cold version, fuck you version, reactive version. It's not that. It's not that at all. What detachment is removing your feeling from what this actually is. You are a co-parent. This has got nothing to do with me. It's got nothing to do with him. He doesn't realize that yet. He's a narcissist. He thinks everything's about him. The evidence of being a solid co-parent has to do with a few things. The text itself is not the issue, right? Communication is required when you are a co-parent. Facts on facts. It's the underlying shit underneath. So when you've been through abuse or whatever length of time of the relationship, you are going to feel the aftermath, the effects of that. On a recent podcast episode, what I had said was I had not even left the courthouse back in June, and I already had a vile text message that said, like, I told you, I'm not going to stop until I destroy your life. We had that communication for like 15 months. That was the first message he decided to send me. And I remember having this like really sinking feeling. This was like when we were married. Like what just happened here? How is it possible? This is the only situation, only legal situation in Canada that you will be paired with your abuser to have communication with. The only situation. Okay. So when that happened, it was like, fuck, like I have to go back into this again, I guess, but how do I do it the right way? And any of my clients that have left an abusive relationship, there's no part of you that wants to be entangled in that, right? You don't want to continue feeding into that energy or allowing it to seep into your life, into your sleep, your nervous system, how you operate in this world. Like it goes so much deeper than what I think people understand when it comes to psychological abuse. Because when you make that decision, like it's not necessarily yours. The name of that podcast was when court decides your life. That wasn't a choice of mine, right? So the healing part is where you do not allow things to get under your skin. And if you haven't actually done deep work, like, you know, I work with a lot of clients that will say things, exactly, make a decision, not with your emotions. Like if you lead with emotions in any of this, you're done. Like you might as well just walk away from it. When clients come to me and they'll say like, oh, I follow, you know, so-and-so person, and they talk about healing as journaling and like going for a walk and whatever. And I'm like, cool. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how mad are you right now? You know, how much has this fucked up your life? Like, I'm not interested in having these like cute conversations. That's not what healing actually is. Healing is insanely painful because you're looking at patterns and wounds and attachments, and that has to do with you, not the other person. So my goal will always be to put the client back in their power in these situations because you feel like you have none, right? Great. Now we have to co-parent with the narcissist. Now we have to communicate with the abuser. Now we, you know, however many years for you, like for my son's 4. We've got a long road ahead of us. I am not super interested in having a battleground for the next 10, 12, 15, whatever number of years. I'm not interested. But it took me a while to get that way, right? And the reason why I think that people believe some of these comments, man. Why people believe it's just like a quick text. It's not. If you've ever dealt with someone that is a narcissist or an abuser, it's never a simple ask or a question. There's always something below that. So if you feed into it, even one time, they are going to feel your energy, which is what they quite literally want, and you lose your footing from where you were starting to be. Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. Um, it's not about not caring. It's not about not giving a shit. It's not about it not letting it affect you. You can be detached from these things and you still can have an emotion around it, but you don't let the emotion run your life. You don't let it guide the conversation. You don't allow it to seep into the way that you speak and show up in this world. It's not how you want to operate. And I know that. But you have a job to do. Co-parenting is a job. And it's not about them. It's also not about you. So when you're in a power dynamic, which is essentially what narcissistic relationships are, even if you're divorced, even if you're separated, if you have something to tie you together like a child, it is still going to be a power dynamic. That is how they are going to see it. It's up to you to break that. I was talking about patterns today on the podcast. They will bait you. They're going to do and say things to get under your skin. They are going to, God, I have so much to say on this. Anything from timing. Let's talk about timing in narcissists. Let's talk about drop-offs in narcissists. My ex-husband doesn't like to parent. Okay. He wants to be a Disneyland dad. And if you don't know what the definition of that is, it's someone that wants to do the fun things and buy the toys and take them places, but they don't want to do the actual work that comes with parenting. So my son was sick, crazy sick, and my ex-husband went into this like panic. He's like, hey, I have all these things. Like, it's not what I want it to be. And I'm busy and I've got these meetings and schedule and whatever. And I'm looking at the text. It was like 7 a.m. I'm like, it is your day to fucking parent. Fucking cancel your day. Parents will understand that. Non-parents will not. So I agreed. I agreed to some time to help. Great. This is me being a co-parent. Why? We're going to talk about enabling. If my son is sick and my ex-husband is saying I'm taking all these things outside the house, he would take our son with him, meaning our son's not going to get rest. He's not going to have sleep or whatever at home. He is going to be in a place where he's not getting what he needs. So cool. Come here for a couple hours. Well, it's never a couple of hours. It's a little bit here, a little bit there. He's late, picking him up, early dropping him off. There's moments that you're going to feel like you're being used because you are. People will take advantage of you if you let them. That's why I talk about things like boundaries and standards on the podcast and with my clients, because if you take the bait, it's up to you to understand what the line is. And there's a difference between being kind and being nice. Being nice is allowing things to happen. And I'm not asking you to stand up to someone who's being abusive to you. I think that that's really hard. Hey guys, what's going on? If you are co-parenting with a narcissist right now, I actually want to hear from you. And if you think that anxiety, anger, over-explaining, or shutting down are parts of your dynamic right now, we're going to work through that for a bit. So if you have an attachment, no, but one of my best friends is actually in Tennessee. If you still have an attachment to a person, if you still have an attachment to an emotion to do with a person, like anger, resentment, gosh, there's a lot to say with this. You are still attached to that human being. So when I talk about things like being unbothered and unattached, it's not necessarily like not having communication. It is super important that you do because you are being judged by the court to do so, right? So If you are emotionally attached to a situation, meaning you are like waiting for that text to come through, or you say something and you know it's going to come right back at you and it's going to be an argument, you are actually engaging in the toxicity that they are laying out for you. It's hard to see, right? Narcissists are very, very, very good at masking what the actual thing is that they want. You If you've ever received the 18 paragraphs and then there's like one sentence in there that answers your question, you're like, what was the rest of the story for? Why did we do paragraphs? Um, we don't pretend abuse didn't happen at all. Sorry, I'm trying to manage YouTube. I decided to stream on two platforms today. Might be a little much for me at 7:30. Um, People in the comment on that video, they were talking about, I've been doing this for 7 years and it feels like it's going to be the death of me. I've been trying to do co-parenting, but this is what it looks like. It's not about anything more than being disciplined with your own energy, your own empathy, and not enabling the other person, right? So a lot of my clients, this is actually kind of a funny story. So I was telling you about my son being sick and me ending up with my son on not my time, which I don't care about. I will happily take my son. I had my son by myself for years, and I'm really grateful for that time, and I miss it, to be honest. I really do. But one of my clients, private clients, and I had a coaching call scheduled, and I said, "Hey, so sorry, this is what's happening," and I know that I can say to her, like, "My ex can't parent today, and I'm going to do whatever," and she's like, "LOL, I get it." There's an interesting common ground between people who have dealt with narcissistic abuse and people who co-parent with narcissists, okay? They understand what's coming or what's happening. It's not like a question mark, right? Like, if it's a holiday, or there's time off of school, or there's sickness, or there's some kind of disruption that would interrupt their schedule, meaning the other co-parent, not the child. There's going to be something that comes with that. Same thing with things like swapping time. Swapping time is a big one. So something that I wanted to share, because the comment on the video that went viral, I had said, I am not inherently a calm person at all. My ability to stay calm, remain calm, be unattached started after I got sober. I grew up like an angry person, to be honest. I was not happy within myself. I was not able to work through relationship conflict dynamics, whatever, and the patterns in my life had me choose people that were abusive or narcissistic, and that stems back to my trauma inheritance. That was my parents. What I think is important, you can learn. Okay, I'm 36 years old. I learned how to remain calm. I learned how to be detached. I learned how to discipline myself when it comes to engagement with my ex-husband. I am not reactive. Something that I teach a lot of my clients, and this has to do with, I mean, it's way beyond co-parenting, but if you pause and think about what's happening before you react to something, what will happen for you is that gap that you leave for emotion to dissipate, to chill the fuck out a little bit, it's going to help you. Okay. They are looking for a reaction. They're looking for you to get upset, get annoyed, say something that can then get thrown into court or with your lawyer or what or mediator, whatever your situation is, right? So that few seconds that you take, instead of holding the phone in your hand and doing that angry fuck you text, it's going to be helpful for you. Now, if you have not healed your nervous system, if you have not done work on patterns and trauma and the healing aspects that are not the cute, fluffy shit on Instagram, you're going to have a hard time remaining balanced in a co parenting dynamic. This is about the kids. This is about kids. It's not about parents. It's not about adults at all. And I've talked about this before, but anger, resentment, anxiety, it's still attachment. Okay. It's attachment to the relational pattern. So that means that the work that needs to be done, it's still layers. Okay. You might have done some work so you don't, like, I don't know, have a level 1,000 meltdown after you have had a parenting exchange. But it's not, attachment is not about love or missing someone or even the relationship. Attachment can be rage. Attachment can be panic, obsessiveness, checking your phone. It can be mental arguments. How many times have you like had a shower and you had this like conversation in your head of like what might happen? Um, and it's okay to think that way, by the way. I talk a lot about triggers being doorways, they're keys. They help you understand your awareness, what you need, what you don't need, what you want, what you don't want. Um, because if that one text message rents space in your brain for the rest of your day because they said something or they did something, you are feeding into this. You are not a free person. Okay? Freedom happens when you learn how to separate yourself. The exit, I was talking about this today on the podcast. The exit from an abusive relationship is not walking out the door, guys. It's not. It's learning who you need to become. And if co-parenting is part of your thing, attachment will also be part of this. Of course, you want to do the best of your ability, but sometimes in those moments where they are attacking you, what do you do? The nervous system part of this, if your reactions are automatic, they are automatic to them. They are automatic to understanding, defending yourself. Hi guys, welcome. It's your nervous system. That is a pattern reaction. So I think for a lot of people, when we think of co-parenting, I mean, Hunter's 4. I've got a very long road of co-parenting. In my head, separate to this was not a conversation between me and my ex-husband. I made a decision. I made a decision that he doesn't get to run my life anymore. He doesn't get to run how the parenting agreement works. He doesn't get to choose, this time and not that time. I don't play that game anymore. I'm not your wife. I'm not going to live in abuse, period. Your connection to me is for our son. That's it. So I don't need to lead with an emotional tone or try and decode something or figure it out when it comes to this. When clients in our membership are talking about how do I co-parent, like how do I actually do this? If we remove that person and we put in I'm going to call them a normal human versus them being a narcissist, you would be able to do it, but you have an emotional attachment to what's happened to you, which is personal. It's got nothing to do with your kids. It's got nothing to do with safety. When we're talking about self-safety, it's important that you understand what you need as a human being. That's outside of being a parent. That's outside of being a co-parent. That's outside of the court or the legal system or whatever you're dealing with, right? So it's one of those things that if you still feel like you are engaging in a way that you don't want to, that is just an emotional reaction. That's all that it is. Guys, please stop inviting me to your lives. I'm not interested in that. I only do this by myself. Okay. Hold on. There's some YouTube comments that I need to respond to. What do you do if they are just doing that in court? Yeah, so that's pretty common actually for narcissists or abusers to like do that in court only. Wherever they can get you, or wherever they think that they have an in some dynamic, energy wise, they're going to take that. They're going to take the opportunity. And that's never going to change. I had a big conversation with one of my private clients the other day, and she said, like, this doesn't necessarily get easier, but I get better at managing it. And that's exactly it, right? Like, when you've experienced abuse for a whatever period of time, you understand that the only way out is looking after yourself, solving for yourself. It's coming back home to you. When you don't do that and you are constantly, at this situation, you are going to feel probably just as drained, probably just as tired, exhausted, frustrated, pissed off, whatever, right? It's not necessarily something that people fully get until they've decided to do like a deeper level of healing. It's not as important. When you look after yourself, the rest will follow. And I know that sounds like a little bit fluffy, but when it comes to situations like co-parenting, what are you going to do? Who do you really want to be in this world? I don't think that there's anybody that like woke up one day and was like, you know what? I would really love to have a child with a narcissist. I would really love to be tied to this human being for the end of time. I would really love to engage with them on a regular basis. I would love to communicate or like to try to decode communication with them. Like nobody says that, right? It's important that you understand that the power is within you to hold on to what you know to be the truth. Something that I've said a lot on my podcast is I'm on the right side of the truth. And I know that. I can go to sleep at night knowing that I showed up in this world with kindness, with respect, with transparency, with all of it. I've had so many moments where I've opened my books to my business, my home, my whole world to show certain things. You know, the legal system is it's fuckery at its finest, but I did it because I had nothing to hide. You know, it's the opposite for him. So for me, no problem. That is something that I say to him all the time. He sends me these like rage texts and it's like, 18 paragraphs long and I'm like, "Sure. No problem. I don't care." My perspective of narcissists, I think, is very different than a lot of people. I view people very differently than how a lot of abuse recovery coaches will teach on this. They are very sick people. Okay. They are very sick people that live in their own delusion. They will take from anyone or anything that gives them any attention, any time, any energy, any power. Knowing that is helpful for a lot of people. Because whether it's you or somebody else, they're going to do it. So when you understand that they are a sick person, I think the forgiveness piece comes in a lot faster. The forgiveness piece is not for them. But if you're co-parenting with a narcissist for whatever length of time, I want you to think about that, right? Like you have power of choice. You could either sit there and be like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna be fucking mad for the next 18 years. Yep. Yep. I want to live that life. Or you'd be like, you know what? This is not worth it for me to be emotionally, mentally engaged in something like this. That's not worth it to me. I want to live a free life. I got out of an abusive relationship to be free. Okay. So the court decided that I have to communicate with this human being. Fine. There are rules around that engagement. I'm not interested in anything outside of that. So, the personal attacks and the personal questions and the trying to flip the script and doing things that are going to annoy me. Okay. It is what it is. But there's also people like that in real life. I was using an analogy with a client the other day. I said, she works in a big office. She's in the States. And she said, there's like hundreds of people in my office and there's like a handful of people that I just can't stand. But we were talking about her ex-husband and co-parenting, whatever. And I said, okay, so basically you can operate with 90% of the world, right? Like you can show up and you can have a decent conversation and it's not a big deal and you don't mind and no one gets under your skin and you are a person that just gets to show up in this world. But this one human is like going to take you at the knees and piss you off and you were mad all weekend and you threw a vase on the ground. Like, why are we letting one singular person disrupt your peace? If I think about like being healed or being in my healing energy, nobody can do that. Nobody can do that to me ever. I wouldn't allow that to happen. And the reason why I wouldn't allow that to happen is because I know that if things cost me my peace, that they got to go. The confusion part, I think for a lot of people is like, well, but I have to. And I've been talking about power of choice. So how does that work, right? Like I'm telling you, you have power of choice here, but you have to communicate. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it their way. A lot of the comments on that video were like very much like I would just tell him to fuck off, and I would just say, like it was just kind of reactive, right? It doesn't have to be that way. You get to choose how you show up in this world, and if you want to be on the right side of things, I don't know about you, but I want to go to sleep at night and I want to be proud of myself. And it's not doing it to be kind. It's not because I miss him. It's not because I fucking care. I care about my son. I want him and his dad to have a good relationship. We are going to be in communication. Who do I want to be? I'm not going to be angry. I mean, I get a little sassy when I post some videos on the internet because I find them funny. I really do. I find the behavior funny. I find the delusion funny. I find that they think that they have power over my life or my decision making, if at all, funny. There are so many different ways that you can understand, not even just in this circumstance. I think it has to do with a lot of things where, well, thank you for that. I keep forgetting to check the YouTube chat. I lost my train of thought. Oh, that was a scroll moment. This applies to people as a whole. A lot of the teachings that I teach in the abuse recovery side are also lessons that I learned in sobriety. People were a big sore point for me, especially relationships. And this goes like outside of abuse. But if someone can wreck your day or flip everything around or whatever, like, sorry, like nobody has that power over me today. I don't care if I love you to pieces. I don't care if you're my parent. I don't care. I don't care. But it took me a long time to get there. That's like 5.5 years of my own healing journey of making decisions that were like, well, that I'm not available for that. I'm not available for that. And I'm not interested. And I'm not going to continue to engage. One of the comments that just came through on YouTube was, how do you set boundaries in a co-parenting relationship with a narcissist? And I think that's really important. So hopefully you have some kind of an agreement on some level. It doesn't have to be like legal, but something. If you don't, it's where things can get sticky, right? It's where things can kind of be, there's a gray area. And where there's gray area, narcissists want to fucking run with it, right? Well, you never said that, or I never said that. If there's nothing in writing, something happens. What's important in setting boundaries with the narcissist, because if you've been doing this for a hot second, you know it's near impossible. The best way that I can suggest this for anybody, be super clear, keep non-emotional language, not I think, I feel, I want, I need. No, we're not doing that. Name of child has insert activity at this time on your parenting time. Is this okay? I just wet my hair on my drink. It's that important. If you think about how you want to speak versus how, or like what's natural speaking to you, probably to like anybody else in this entire world, it's not going to be that. You have to take the emotion out of it completely. So as far as setting a boundary, I can use my own experience for some examples. My ex-husband will get his nose out of joint. He will pop off. He will say nasty shit. Whatever. I don't care. But what I will say to him, I will give him a warning. Hey, if you do this again, I'm going to be blocking you until tomorrow morning or your call with your son or whatever. And I'm very clear about that because nobody has the right to do that to anybody else. And I did that. I lived that life. I lived that in our marriage. I'm not interested. So you want to keep playing that game? That's cool, but I'm going to stop this completely. And for a lot of people, there's some fear around what could happen there. It kind of goes back to what I was just talking about. If you have something in writing, stick with that. If you have a lawyer, a mediator, somebody that you trust that you should talk to about these things, like we have a lot of conversations about co-parenting in our membership because there's 6 women actually that have kids with narcissists, and they're all in their first like year and a half of navigating separation and divorce with someone that they have to co-parent, right? And it's important. It's important to talk about it. You know, the boundary piece boundaries feel funny for people that are being abused in general because you feel like it's so grand and so big and you're doing something that's so crazy. It's not. It's just you're being a normal human in this world against somebody that's nasty. And that's the truth. Um, I use very direct language with my ex-husband all the time. And it's very simple. One word answers: yes, no, yes, no. Why? I'm not It's not like how I text my best friend or my boyfriend. It's not those kind of texts. All of the emotions are out of it. It is very clinical, which again, it took me a long time to get there, but until you decide to not give your power away, it's a choice. It's a choice to be a certain way. Um, the the follow-up question to that was, what happens when they flip out? I have a toddler. We talk about consequences a lot. Um, there's a consequence. If you want to be a dickhead, there's going to be a consequence to that. So I hold the line when it comes to verbal abuse um, via text message. I do not take phone calls. If there is a video call, it is recorded. And that goes for if my son's here having a call with his dad, or I'm having a call while my son's at his dad's house. It's the same thing. Everything gets recorded. I have a 0.000% trust factor for this person. I don't trust you're not going to say something or do something. So that's how it's going to be. And I don't care about other people's opinions on that at all, not his or anybody else. Whenever you think about engaging with someone who is narcissistic, you always have to have your own back in this. And for some women, that can feel really draining. Like, how long do I have to manage, the fallout of this? It doesn't always feel that way. Like I said at the beginning, I find a lot of this comical, the messages that come through and the things that he says. I'm like, I mean, that's wild. Like, that is a very delusional line of thinking, but like, sure, if that's what you think is great, lovely. I do have several podcast episodes on this as well. There's, I think, co-parenting with a narcissist and leaving a narcissist and needing to co-parent. I talked about my own experience in court when we actually got into the situation of co-parenting that happened last June. Not easy. That was probably one of the harder podcast episodes that I've ever recorded. It took me a while to get there. Obviously, it's February, but it was important. I think a lot of people think that the legal system will protect them or the evidence protects them. My story is not your story. And, don't take what I say as like absolute truth, but my story is experience, and our coaching spaces are very much proof of that. So you guys don't have a lot of questions today, I don't think. I think you guys are just being dickheads. All right, I'm going to check the YouTube chat. This is Q&A, guys. So if you have questions, you can ask them. I'm just going through the comments on YouTube. There was several ones there. One I wanted to pull for sure. Okay. I feel triggered every time I see his name pop up on my phone. Yeah, that makes sense. If you don't heal what's happened to you, you're always going to feel that. You're always going to feel that. And that's probably more a reaction to your past than it is to the current moment. I have such a good client story to share with you about this. Not affiliated with co-parenting, but she had a trauma experience having to do with a phone. She got bad information through her phone. It was a phone call when she was younger, and her entire life now she's been in full-on panic mode when it comes to communication and phone calls and things like that. And she didn't actually get help for that until we had that conversation. I'm really not interested. Like, the way that I coach is not, yes, I would absolutely love to hear about what your ex or your narcissist or your abuser said to you this morning via text message. I'm not super interested in that. What I am interested in is the other experiences that you've had in your life where other people have been similar or same, because that's a pattern. That's a pattern that we can actually break. When you can break the pattern, you can heal the root. And yeah, again, awareness is a great thing, but awareness is not the piece that changes your life. It's not. What will change your life is breaking that pattern. So you're no longer triggered by a text message. I had a client who, I mean, I also keep my phone on DND. My entire phone is on DND. There's about 3 people that can get through to me at any point in time. My ex is not one of them. My full phone is on DND, and his text messages are also on DND. And the only time that I go for communication with him is if I have a question, or it is my time, my time to have a FaceTime. That's it. There's lots of ways you can protect yourself. I had a client who, after communication, if she had to say something via message or email to her ex, her next move was to then go and put her phone down somewhere on a table in a drawer, go work out, go look after herself, do some expressive regulation. There's lots of things that you can do. And again, it goes to power of choice. It's something that it should be talked about more. I should talk about that more. I should do a podcast episode on that. Your progress, words, is not tied to having triggers, by the way. If you feel grief or pain or anger or shame when it's coming to conversations, communication with your co-parent, if you have a feeling, don't make that mean anything about you at all. You are a human being going through something that is really fucking hard. Don't make it mean anything about you. It doesn't mean that you're not getting better. It doesn't mean that you're damaged or you're broken it doesn't mean anything. People take triggers way, way, way out of context, and they think that your progress stops, or, you have some kind of like start over time, the way that AA told me about my sobriety. The flex is not having this like carbon copy. People always ask me for scripts. Give me scripts to text my co-parent. I'm like, yeah, no. I mean, why would I do that? I'm not fucking ChatGPT. You want me to help you? No, I'm not doing that. It's not about having a perfect response. You could have the perfect response to the narcissist, and they're never going to give you exactly what's important. Then it's never going to be what you think it is. It's really about returning you to you. Coming back home to yourself in those moments where you're like agitated, or they say something or do something and you want to flip the fuck out and, send the rage text or blow up the phone. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Let's come home and be with yourself. It's such a hard thing for people to understand. I have this conversation a lot. Real healing happens when your spiraling is in a shorter time period. People ask about like markers. How do I know that I'm getting better and not worse? Let's say, I don't know, 6 months ago, I will use myself as an example. When this all went down, I think I cried for like an entire week about the situation, between the text messages that were coming in, shit with the lawyer, court, whatever. He messages me now, and I take a screenshot and I put it in the group chat, and we all have like a good laugh. It's not about not feeling something, but I don't care. The spiral doesn't happen anymore. There's no part of me that's going to spiral out about his opinion or what he says or what he does. I'm not in a place where that matters. I will always, I have a video up on my TikTok there about making him a birthday cake, because my son wanted to make him a birthday cake, and people are like, you're mental. I'm like, no, I'm a good co-parent. I'm a very grounded person. There's very few things that can get under my skin today. One of the questions on YouTube is from another sober human who has 2 years sobriety, celebrating you for that. She asked how I maintain my sobriety while going through all this. I feel like that's a little bit of a separate conversation. There's nothing that could get me to drink today or honestly, do any harm to myself. I worked really fucking hard to get sober and stay sober. My first round of sobriety was inside of a 26-foot sailboat with a alcoholic drug addict. And then I moved to New Brunswick and I wound up in a marriage to a narcissist. And I maintained my sobriety from about a month before I moved to New Brunswick. So November 2020 till now. There's nothing that could get me to drink. Definitely not my ex-husband. There's no scenario that I can ever envision that. And a lot of people, oh great, now I have questions about AA. I'm not in a program of recovery anymore. I still live by those principles. It's something that I value. But I'm not in a recovery program. I don't feel like I need it. I know that I could go back if I did need it. I still have friends that are in AA or in recovery programs that I stay engaged with. I have conversations with. My dad's sober, his wife's sober. I have a lot of love and support and a lot of people who respect my sobriety. So I've never been at risk. I've never felt the need to pick up a drink or want to drink. Every once in a while, I have like a weird craving for a cigarette, which is fucking weird because I haven't smoked since like 2018, 2019. But if I get like mad, I want to break something and then I want to smoke a cigarette. I don't do either of those things, by the way. I tend to like lift weights or like go for a run or, call a friend. But it happens. I'm human. I will never ignore my human or how I feel about things. But yeah, my sobriety was never a question mark in any of this. Not when I was being abused, not when he left, not in court, not in co-parenting, certainly not in co-parenting. That would never be, there's nothing that's worth it for me to do that. Okay. I'm going to stop answering questions about my sobriety. Not that I don't want to talk about it, but that was not the point of this live. And I'm going to be sending this out to some women on my email list who weren't able to make it tonight. So I want to talk about what being a good co-parent looks like when you are co-parenting with a narcissist. This is not about winning. We're not trying to win the interaction. We are not trying to control the narrative, the scenario, the person. Your job is to support the kid, your kid, not the mood, not the game, not the emotional climate. That's not it. You, as a co-parent, will do the best of your ability to regulate yourself first and foremost, so you can regulate your kids. It's something that honestly, I am so fucking grateful that I started this with Hunter when he was younger. He couldn't even speak it. I have some voice notes on my phone that are like the most adorable thing in the world. We used to do affirmations together and deep breaths. And even now, like something will happen and he's like, Mama, do you need to blow out the candles? I'm like, maybe, maybe we can blow out some candles. But as a co-parent, the best thing you can do to protect your peace and your sanity and your safety against a narcissist as another co-parent is regulate yourself. Know how to regulate yourself. This is not some bullshit, guys, that people talk about on social media. It's real stuff. So you can have a regulated home and a regulated child that has peace and safety in the space with you. That is being a good co-parent. You are someone that protects routines. You are predictable. You are stable. Your child needs that. This is about the child. It's not about you. This is not about them. The long game. A lot of people miss out on this. Whatever zone you are in right now, separating, divorcing from a narcissist, co-parenting with a narcissist, whatever area you're in that you're like, this is fuckery and I hate this, and you can't see beyond tomorrow, this is a long game. I don't care if you have a year of co-parenting or whatever. For me, I got a long time. My son's 4. You can be firm without being reactive. Firm and fair. Why not? If you were dealing with I'm a business owner. If I was dealing with someone in business that's being a dickhead, I'd be like, hey, here's the line. Would you like to buy this or no? We don't need to engage further than that. I don't chase people for conversation, for clarity, for understanding. Not interested. Hey guys, welcome to the chat. Your kindness is to support your child, not your co-parent. There's no reason for you to bring resentment, your anger, bitterness, or your attachments into this dynamic at all. All you are doing is feeding the fucking animal. We don't want to do that anymore. If you remove your energy, things will slow down or stop. I promise. You don't protect their feelings, their opinions. It's not important. What is important is that you are okay and your child is okay. And whatever else is outside of that is just noise, guys. It's just noise. It doesn't matter. Yeah. You guys are slack on the chat today on TikTok. YouTube is being bumping. What do you do when a co-parent can't take their time, but they need a change? Yeah, I mean, it really goes back to whatever the initial decision was. If you guys have a parenting agreement, run with that. You can lead with kindness if it supports your child. Why not? I think the ego piece of that is the assumption from the other person, from the co-parent, is that you're doing it for them. Let them assume. Who cares? Their opinion really doesn't matter. Oh my God, there's a lot of ridiculous comments here. I need to get better at filtering these. Yeah, that one doesn't make sense either. Okay, I'm gonna ignore that chat too. Oh. Okay. If you guys want access to the podcast that I did on this, I think it's about 40 minutes, how to co-parent with a narcissist or how to stay safe and sane co-parenting with a narcissist, drop pod in the comments. As much as I talk about healing and navigating and management inside of a dynamic like this, it's not easy. I don't ever want someone to hear me talk and they're like, oh, I'm just going to tell them to, be firm but fair, and it's just over. It's not necessarily like that. The emotional ties that you have, it does matter. But that is why people like me exist in this world. A lot of my clients also have therapists and things like that where they can access the emotional support so they understand, why they've made the decisions that they've had relationally with relationships and how to heal that. The podcast episode that I dropped today was the exit strategy that nobody talks to women about. Leaving is not enough. Leaving a relationship doesn't fix anything. And if you are co-parenting with someone for any length of time, it does feel like a different kind of ending, right? Because it doesn't end. It just changes. And when the game changes, you have to become adaptable. You can't allow the emotions to run the game. You just can't have it that way. Yeah. Okay. Now both of these chats are getting out of pocket. You guys, why do you guys got to do that? Don't be fucking mean. I'm here to help. All right. I'm going to give you a couple more minutes and I'm going to wrap up. It's almost 8:30. I feel like it's my bedtime. It is hard. It's very hard to be a co-parent. I had a client, I share with my clients when I'm going live, they can come and get extra coaching or whatever. And she's like, some days it feels like I'm drowning, and like not even emotionally. It's just like I pick up my phone and it's just this like word vomit from this person. I'm like, I get it, but you don't. for a lot of people, I think they still live in the past of what the relationship was, right? Like what the abuse or what that felt like. So when you're trying to communicate, clearly, effectively with a co-parent, you still have that emotional piece. And that's the piece that really needs to be solved in order for you to be free in this. So when I say things like I find most of it comical, it's the truth. I do. He has a special name and my phone and all the things. My daughter's 22 and I haven't seen her since I was 17. Oh, thank you for sharing that. We were talking about being on the right side of the truth earlier. You know what? My parents had a pretty crazy divorce. Nobody was honest. There was a lot of drama that happened. And I don't think I found out the truth until 10, 12 years later of all of it. And I mean, it was because I was curious. I was very involved in my parents' divorce. But my perception of what happened back then was very different with the actual information later on. So something that I do share with my clients often is that if you don't like how things are right now, things change all the time, right? Like ultimately, parenting agreements are like the one thing that can be changed on a dime. And there's a lot of reasons for that, whether you're involved with the legal system or not. But it is the one thing that can absolutely be changed at any point in time. And kids get older. They get more aware. They see what's said and done. They notice behaviors. They start speaking up. So if your kids are young, my son's 4, some of us have a longer road than others. It doesn't make it right or wrong. There's no difference. Abuse is abuse, right? Like that's a fact. Someone argued with me the other day on TikTok that it was codependency. I'm like, you are never going to convince me that abuse is fucking codependency. That's like the most invalid argument I've ever had. But they will find out eventually. Your kids will find out the truth of who each parent is eventually. And if you hear that and that scares you, you're part of the problem. If you hear that and you're like, thank God, thank you for being here. All right, guys, I'm going to hop off in 2 minutes. Go ahead and hit follow if you want the podcast episode for Coparenting with a Narcissist. Drop pod in the comments. I will drop it to you after we wrap up here. Yeah, of course, guys, no problem. My lives on TikTok and YouTube are the only places that I do free coaching. Yes, I have programs, private, group, and memberships. It's all the things, but this is the only space. So I don't accept DMs. I don't accept voice notes outside of this. I'm happy to help here and here only. I do this 1 or 2 times a week. Why does it make me? It like randomly, I got a whatever it was, a restriction at the beginning, and now it thinks that I need a puzzle. Co-parenting with the narcissist is like trying to staple soup to a tree while standing in a hand. I really like that. Sounds like you have some experience. All right, friends, I am going to hop off. If you are interested in the Forged in the Fire series, more information, access to coaching, more direct support, please send me a message. I'm happy to share some more information. I don't sell in these things. I'm not super interested in that. I just want to see more people come out on the other side of co-parenting. It's not easy. That comment soup and a, thank you. I appreciate that. The soup and the hammock one, that was really good. That was really good. But you don't have to do it alone. And that's what a lot of people feel. You know, I was by myself in New Brunswick, you know, trying to figure all this out. I posted a video the other day about it. You know, the only person that knew what was going on, she lived in Ontario. Not ideal, but the internet is a wonderful place for connection, community, collaboration, understanding, compassion, heart. That's what I do. So if you or someone you know is dealing with a narcissist, trying to leave abuse, afraid to leave abuse, in love with Florida. What are you, a real estate agent? Like, people are so fucking weird on the internet. Share this with them. Share my profile. Let them know. There are people that are willing to help. You have to be willing to help yourself first. Most important part. Co-parenting gets easier, not because they get easier. All right. I'm going to say goodnight. Oh, I have to end both screens. Hold on. Hold on. Like, you guys have to hold on. Okay. This one needs to be ended here.